Tennessee adds its fifth transfer portal commitment on Tuesday afternoon. Another cornerback, the second of the cycle. What does Jalen McMurray bring to Tennessee's defense? That and a whole lot more. It's your Wednesday Locked On Vols.
You are Locked On Vols, your daily podcast on the Tennessee Volunteers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, good Wednesday morning, everybody. Welcome to Locked On Vols. I am your host, Eric Kane. Appreciate you for being here. We're a part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It is your team every single day. Big thanks, as always, for following along with the show on YouTube, subscribing, and downloading us wherever you listen to your podcast. Got a fun show coming up today. A transfer portal commitment, Jalen McMurray. What does he bring to the table? That in segment one. Vol Hoops hits the road for the first action of SEC play on the road, that is, at Mississippi State. Tell you all that you need to know heading into that matchup. And then Ward Wednesday stops by Josh Ward for his weekly hit here on Locked On Vols. That is the roadmap here for your 30-minute program. Jalen McMurray, cornerback, formerly of Temple. What does he bring to the table? Well, like I said, he's the fifth cornerback commit, joining the likes of Holden Stays, Jacoby Thomas, Jamal McCoy, and Chris Brazel. Now you throw Jalen McMurray into that mix. He's the second cornerback of the group, joining Jermod McCoy. He's officially listed on the Temple website at 6 foot, 180 pounds. I think he's a little smaller than that. Probably give him about 5'11", maybe 175. But he was in town last weekend for a visit. He took in the game against the basketball game against Ole Miss, the big win he and his family did at Thompson Bowling Arena at the Food City Center. He will have 2 years of eligibility remaining. So who is this new cornerback for the University of Tennessee? Well, Jalen McMurray, he played in parts of 27 games over the course of his career at Temple. He redshirted in 2021 and then was a redshirt freshman in 22 and then a redshirt sophomore this past football season. Picked up the starting gig at the very beginning of the 2022 season against Duke. He's logged over his career in 2 years and some change. 90 career tackles, 2.5 TFLs, 1 interception, 12 passes defended. He's also forced a pair of fumbles, and he's recovered a fumble as well. Again, Pro Football Focus, take it or leave it. It's something, it's not everything. Pro Football Focus has the cornerback on the field for 742 snaps. It's a lot of snaps this past football season in 2023. 654 snaps back in 2022, only 32 snaps as a true freshman. He went on to redshirt that year back in 2021. The publication also gave him a grade as 80.6 as a redshirt freshman in 2022. That was kind of the high points watermark. 66.5 according to Pro Football Focus this past year. Again, something, not everything, but according to that metric, it looked like he regressed a little bit in his play. But as I always say, Pro Football Focus is good for things I'm about to read right now. Yards given up, targets, targets to an opposing cornerback. Touchdowns given up, snap counts, very, very big, that type of stuff. And so, the grades, I don't often put a whole lot of stock into. But again, according to Pro Football Focus, he's given up 5 total touchdowns after being targeted 94 times in 3 seasons. So that ratio's pretty good right there. Again, he's the 5th transfer portal edition of the class, is Jalen McMurray. And you look at kind of what that means for the defensive back room. So I'll look at it like this. Can he come in and compete for a starting job? Absolutely. Nothing set in stone right now. As we've talked about on this podcast, the defensive backfield for Tennessee, wide open. Every starter is gone. You are hitting the refresh button. You are starting from scratch, right? And so your 2 cornerback spots are up for grabs, 2 safety spots are up for grabs, and the star position's up for grabs. We have a good idea that Andre Turrentine's going to play one of the safeties. Jordan Thomas is going to play the star. And then you would think that Ricky Gibson is going to start at one of the cornerbacks. But still, that room decimated by departures. Kamal Hadden exhausted his eligibility. Danico Slaughter hit the transfer portal. Gabe Jeudy-Lally, after 5 years in college, he's going to move on and go to the NFL. So those were your 3 starting, quotation marks, cornerbacks. Kamal Hadden and Danico Slaughter started the year, but Hadden missed half the year with injury. Danico Slaughter missed a lot of time with injury, and Gabe Jeudy-Lally, though he wasn't an opening day starter, He appeared in every football game, and he made 10 starts. So it's pretty much I give you 3 starting cornerbacks for Tennessee in 2023. But your starters are gone. Well, the guys behind them in the reserves, Brandon Turnage has entered the transfer portal. Warren Burrell has entered the transfer portal. He's committed to Georgia Tech. Deshaun Rucker has entered the transfer portal. He's committed to UCF. So get a load of this. I broke down the numbers here. In total, okay, Tennessee is losing a combined of these cornerbacks who were on the roster in 2023, who are now off the roster. Just cornerbacks, not defensive secondary, just cornerbacks. Tennessee is losing a combined 191 games played, 70 starts, 6,727 defensive snaps. That's a lot of football. Again, Warren Burrell was a 3-year starter before getting hurt and, at the beginning of the 2022 season, and then serving as a key backup and special teams player that really in 2023. Brandon Turnage has, done spot time duty as a starter. Deshaun Rucker hadn't played in a while, but he got some significant playing time last year against, I want to say Alabama, or maybe it was 2 years ago against Alabama. Last year against Pitt, he's seen the field a little bit. We know about Gabe Jeudy-Lally. We know about Kamal Haddon. We know about the Nico Slaughter. So there's a lot of production lost from that room. Again, I'm going to read that again. The cornerbacks who were on the 2023 roster, who are now off the roster for 2024, Tennessee is now missing a combined 191 games played, 70 starts, 6,727 defensive snaps. Again, I'm not trying to make it sound like Tennessee is losing all these All-Americans. Kamal Haddon's a good player. He's hurt. Gabe Jeudy-Lally was solid. Denico Slaughter, when healthy, I thought was pretty good, but he wasn't healthy at all this past year. Brandon Turnage, Warren Burrell, Deshaun Rucker are not starters on this football team, but still experienced. So Jalen McMurray, along with Jermon McCoy, the 2 transfer portal additions at cornerback, and the one we're speaking about right now, Jalen McMurray from Temple, now joining a quarterback room that has Ricky Gibson, 1 start to his name. Christian Harrison, Jordan Matthews, Christian Conyer, combined 0 starts. In fact, Jordan Matthews played, I want to say, in only 3 games this year. Christian Conyer was on special teams, but those freshmen didn't contribute. And Christian Harrison really was never a factor up until playing 15 snaps in the bowl game due to the departures of all these guys that I've mentioned above. Caleb Beasley did sign a part of the class of 2024. He's going to be in the rotation. He's going to be competing at cornerback, but more than anything, it's a body. And I'm not trying to say that that's his ceiling. I'm not trying to say that he can't come in here and be a starting cornerback. I don't know. We'll see. Spring will tell. But more than anything, it's a body because you don't have a whole lot in the cupboard, if you will. Jalen McMurray is a guy that is experienced again, played, pretty much last 2 seasons being a cornerback. He was, let's see here. He was named Field Steel and I think College Football News, preseason all conference, the conference that Temple played in. So he's got some recognition a little bit to his tool belt, but the stage is bigger now than it ever has been for him. And Tennessee does get another quality body. So now 5 additions via the transfer portal, 2 cornerbacks, 1 safety, 1 wide receiver, and 1 tight end. Tennessee, more than anything, needs some offensive line help. We'll continue to navigate through Lance Hurd and see if Tennessee can get some good news in terms of Lance Hurd as we continue on this week right here with Locked On Vols. Hey, more to come. We'll give you a preview of Tennessee and Mississippi State. That's coming up next right here on Locked On Vols. I want to tell you about our friends over at LinkedIn Jobs. At the start of the new year, every small business owner is asking themselves the same question. What's the one move I can make that'll take my business to the next level in 2024? LinkedIn Jobs knows that your success all depends on the team that you surround yourself with. That's why LinkedIn Jobs has created the tools to help find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. We've all put our resumes online, hoping to get that next job in our career field, that next stepping stone, or maybe you've reached your ceiling and you want to continue to grow your small business that you own and operate to its maximum potential. But you can't do it alone. You need somebody that's qualified. You need somebody that you can trust. And over at LinkedIn Jobs, they can help you with that. It's not just any other job board. It's got a vast network of more than 1 billion professionals, which makes it the best place to hire. Plus, hiring's easy when you have those quality candidates. So easy, in fact, that 86% of small businesses get qualified candidate within 24 hours. Post your job for free. That's at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. LinkedIn.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions do apply. All right, welcome back in here to your Wednesday edition of Locked On Vols. We got Ward Wednesday coming up next with Josh Ward in segment number 3. But before we get into Josh Ward, I do want to kind of navigate and kind of preview what's in store for Tennessee coming up tonight in the SEC opener at Mississippi State. It was a really, really good start to the SEC slate for Tennessee, a 90-64 win over Ole Miss on Saturday night. Jonas Adu, 24 points. Zakai Ziegler, a double-double. Tennessee looked really, really good. But it will hit the road for its first road test away from Thompson-Boling Arena at the Food City Center in conference play. Tennessee comes into the matchup 11-3 on the season, 1-0 in SEC play. Excuse me. Mississippi State also 11-3, but 0-1. It lost in Columbia, South Carolina on Saturday by a score of 68-62. Of course, Tennessee coming off that massive win, 26-point win over Ole Miss on the same day. So the other two losses for Mississippi State, again coming in at 11-3, lost to Georgia Tech in the SEC-ACC Challenge, 67-59, and then a really, really bad loss to Southern from the SWAC. Mississippi State lost at home to Southern by a score of 60-59, so lost by 1 point. But still, that's a really, really bad loss. Not only is Southern from the SWAC, but excuse me, Southern is 8-7 on the season. So that is not a good loss on that resume for Mississippi State. Tennessee is 9-1 in its last 10 ball games against Mississippi State, including having won 5 straight. Mississippi State was preseason ranked 7th in the Southeastern Conference. It was a tournament team a season ago, went 8-10 in conference, but it was 21-13 overall. Some of the player personnel to look out for: a graduate student forward, Tulu Smith II. He's missed all but 2 games so far this season, but he's been back, played the last 2 games on the schedule, came off the bench in the loss against South Carolina. He was a preseason first-team All-SEC selection. In 2 games, he's averaging 14.5 points per game, so double figures, almost 15 points a game. He's made 9 of 11 field goals so far, and he's made 11 of 12 from the charity stripe. So a really, really good player, likely coming off the bench still, but Tulu Smith, a guy that's been around this league for a long time. Josh Hubbard, guard, he is also out there, 14.4 points per game on shooting 41.7% from the field. So backcourt presence in terms of scoring, that's Josh Hubbard. What about down low? Jimmy Bell Jr. leading the way with 8.6 rebounds per game. And then Deshaun Davis, 3.4 assists per game. So a couple of quality players to be on the lookout for: Tulu Smith, Josh Hubbard, Jimmy Bell, Deshaun Davis. ESPN's matchup predictor on the old handy ESPN app gives Tennessee a 60.5% chance of victory. Tennessee, according to FanDuel Sportsbook, is a 2.5-point favorite entering this basketball game on the road, with the total sitting at 138.5. So 138 in the hook is the total. Tennessee, a 2.5-point favorite on the road at Mississippi State. All that from our friends over at FanDuel. Let's look down deep into the stats, shall we? Well, points per game, a lot of even statistics here when you really look at it. Points per game, Tennessee scores on average 78.7 points per game. Mississippi State 75.2 points per game. Points allowed, Tennessee's allowed 64.3 points per game. Mississippi State 63.1 points per game. So a little bit better there. Field goal percentage, Tennessee shooting at 43.8%. Mississippi State at 45.1%. Rebounds per game, virtually even, 39.7 for Tennessee, 39.4 for Mississippi State. Assists per game, 17.4 for Tennessee, 15.2 for Mississippi State. And you remember, 34 made baskets for Tennessee, 34 made field goals against Ole Miss on Saturday. 25 of those were assisted on. That's probably my favorite stat from the basketball game against Ole Miss. 25 assists on 34 made baskets. Not bad whatsoever. What does Ken Palm think about this matchup? Well, Tennessee is the 4th overall team in the Ken Palm rankings. Mississippi State is down at number 29. Offensive efficiency there, 23rd ranked Volunteers, 78th ranked Mississippi State Bulldogs. So Tennessee, the clear advantage on the offensive end, 23rd, where the Bulldogs are ranked 78th. On the defensive end, both really good stout teams. Tennessee, the 2nd best defensive team in the country, according to Ken Palm, while the Bulldogs are number 10, which is nothing to slouch at. It's a pretty good defensive team. But here's another stat entering the game that you need to remember. Mississippi State ranks 41st in the country in 2-point field goal percentage. Pretty solid. When you think about all the teams in the nation, Mississippi State ranks 41st in terms of 2-point field goal percentage. Where they lapse are behind the arc. 246th is where Mississippi State ranks in 3-point shooting percentage. We like to say that Tennessee can't knock down a 3. We like to say that there's dry spells and Tennessee can't shoot behind the arc, and that's fair a lot of the times. But 246th in the nation in 3-point shooting field goal percentage. That is not good. So play stout defense, force them out to the perimeter, make them shoot their shot from there. Chances are they're going to miss. I like Tennessee in this game. I think Tennessee's just a step above this Mississippi State team that is pretty stout defensively. There's no blemishes on Tennessee's radar. 3 losses to 3 of the top 4 teams in the country, whereas Mississippi State has a horrible, horrible loss to Southern, and then is coming off a loss last weekend to South Carolina. So I'm expecting Tennessee to win this game. I'm expecting Tennessee to improve to 12-3 and 2-0 in SEC play and come back to Knoxville and continue on with the SEC slate. That game's going to tip on the SEC network at 7 o'clock Eastern time tonight. Thank God for a 7 o'clock Eastern time tip, even though the game is in the Central time zone. Can't be more thankful for that. Hey, more to come. We'll have Josh Ward joining the show right here on Locked On Vols. FanDuel Sportsbook, the NFL regular season, it's done. Wildcard weekend is on the horizon, just days away. One of my favorite weekends in all the sports calendar. And it could be one of your favorite weekends as well if you can put some coin in your pocket over there at FanDuel Sportsbook. It's America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers can get up to $150 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. $150, win or lose, in bonus bets. It's that simple. All you can do on the safe, secure, easy-to-use app. So many different ways to play. You got live same-game parlays. You can find bets in the new Explore tab as well. Make Parlay in the Parlay Hub the best way to find those popular parlays. Total, spreads, individual prop bets. Those are so much fun, and I encourage new users over at FanDuel Sportsbook to check out those prop bets. It's simple, something you can pay attention to, and it's fun as well. FanDuel Sportsbook, it's America's #1 sportsbook. Go to FanDuel.com/lockedon. FanDuel.com/lockedon for $150 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. All that and more. It's FanDuel, it's America's #1 sportsbook. Segment number 3 of a Wednesday show. You know what that means. It is Ward Wednesday time with Josh Ward from 99.1 The Sports Animal. Josh, good Wednesday. Hope you're staying dry.
Yeah, raining time here in East Tennessee. Hope everybody's driving safely if you're listening to this, moving around, or if you're watching, of course. But yeah, good times right now with a lot going on for Tennessee fans to keep up with.
Yeah, we'll get more to Tennessee specific here in a second, but the college football playoffs have come to an end. College football is officially over. Michigan wins the college football playoff. It looked like it was going to be a rout in the first half. Washington came back and kind of made it a game, but eventually Michigan took control there in the second half. How long until this championship is stripped from Michigan, or do you think it'll ever be stripped from Michigan?
Yeah, my guess is that it won't be. I do enjoy the jokes because that's what college football is about a lot of time, is ragging on other programs, whether they're a rival or not, just making jokes at the expense of other teams or programs or fan bases is really what it ends up being about. Tennessee has been on the not so fun side of that at times. Right now, Tennessee's in a really good shape where they can kind of point at others and laugh and have a good time. But the way I look at it is Michigan went out there and beat up on teams this year and over the last few years. So, yeah, like Reggie Bush, he broke some rules. I think it's pretty obvious at this point. Rules have also changed since then. I'm a proponent of giving him his Heisman Trophy back. I'm a proponent of Michigan being recognized as the national champ because I think the Wolverines went out there and earned it.
You look at now the college football playoff, the 4-team playoff, it's come and gone. It's going to go to a 12-team playoff next year. How that looks, how that is selected, we'll kind of see exactly, what the committee values in terms of selecting those teams in there. But overall, the 4-team playoff era, was it a success or not?
Yeah, it was a success. I would say compared to the previous system of the BCS, college football, it's weird in that it's weird in many ways. It's weird in that it has to take baby steps along the way. It can't look at what is an obvious destination and jump to that. They went to the BCS. They went through it for so many years with so many people predicting at some point you're going to a playoff system beyond 2 teams.
Yeah.
And those who were involved in the BCS, profiting off the BCS, would say no until there was a chance to profit even more. And then when they went to the 4-team playoff, my immediate thought was this will expand in the future. A lot of people predicted that would happen. It just took time. So for what it was on the way to becoming a 12-team playoff, which, by the way, you don't have to be in favor of. If you don't like the idea of a 12-team playoff, perfectly fine. But the 4-team playoff system, I think, did its best along the way. It, of course, finished in controversial fashion with Florida State being left out, which also is on the list of perfect college football storylines. Controversy always follows the sport.
Look at Tennessee as it tries to make the college football playoff next year, the 12-team playoff, and of course, kind of start a leg up in this new era of SEC football with 16 teams, no divisions. Trying to get some work done in the transfer portal this week. At the time of this recording, nothing has happened, but obviously in search of some offensive line help. How big of a priority is it now with Gerald Mincey entering the portal that you go and find a tackle? And I think Tennessee would still like to find a guard because there's obviously a hole there when you look at 2024.
Yeah, I think my thought here can work whether Tennessee has or has not landed somebody else on the offensive line. By the time you're listening or watching to this conversation, Tennessee has to get offensive line help. We cannot totally discount the idea that players who are on the roster now can develop and become better players. But Tennessee's coaching staff cannot solely count on that. I don't think Tennessee's coaching staff is just counting on that. They're telling us that they need help. There's a reason that they have pursued several offensive linemen. So sometimes we don't even have to wonder what is our opinion. We can look at what the coaching staff is telling us or showing us in their pursuit of other offensive linemen. I thought landing another offensive lineman was important before Gerald Mincey left. You mentioned the guard position. That is an unknown. Maybe Andre Carrick is the guy there and plays at a higher level than we've seen to this point in college. But I don't have anything to point to say that will happen for Tennessee. We saw the offensive line perform well at times. We saw the offensive line struggle at times this past season. Tennessee ran the ball overall this season very well. In the 4 losses, they did not at all. They really struggled. Jalen Wright had a really good season, but look at his performances in those 4 games. It wasn't where it needed to be. Tennessee needs to be more consistent in running the ball in 2024 than this past season. They need to be more consistent in protection of the quarterback, who is going to be young and still learning. We saw in the bowl game that Nico does have a ton of ability. He does have all the skill set that we've talked about, but he needs more help up front as he's still working on decision-making and processing and figuring out what to do with the football, get rid of it, make a play, run for it. So the better they are up front, the better Nico is going to be. It's not just about protecting him and keeping him healthy. It's about allowing the offense to run at the level that it's capable of. In 2022, Tennessee was able to do that because of Hendon Hooker. They were able to do that because of Jalen Hyatt and other players on the offense, but because of Darnell Wright and Jerome Carvin, who were very important players in that offensive line, Tennessee is still working to replace them.
Yeah, I think both can be true here. Knowing that the COVID era has kind of thrown a wrench into that, and it's kind of a weird time in college football, but also, things stay, status quo. 2024 will be the 4th straight season, every season that Josh Heupel and Glenn Ellerbe have been here, that they've not started. Obviously, the first season you couldn't, but they've not started an offensive lineman that they spot, recruited, signed out of high school. And it's not the end of the world. And again, the COVID years kind of, allow some of that to be prolonged. But, that's got to change at some point, right, Josh? I mean, that's not a very good sign of where your program is, in my opinion. It's not the end of the world, but I mean, that's got to change here pretty soon.
It has to. It has to over the next couple of seasons, because Cooper Mays, Javonte Spraggins, John Campbell, Jr., veteran players that we're talking about for 2024 are not around. I haven't been able to come up with extra eligibility they will find for 2025. So Tennessee has to plan to be without them. And the transfer portal is a way to help, but that has not been their best success on the offensive line. They've found some help. They've been better off with some of the transfers that have come in than if they had not landed them. But if we look over the last few seasons and we're ranking the offensive linemen that have played for Tennessee, Mincy, Campbell, and Carrick do not rank at the top. So that is a route. But the best route to success when you're talking about 5 positions, and really more than that in terms of the amount of players you have to have, because you have to expect that injuries are going to occur. This past season was a reminder. They have to find guys at the high school level. And in 2024, I'm not aware of any of the 2023 class members, 2024 class members, guys that just signed. I'm not aware of anyone expected to come in and play right away. But by 2025, this group that just signed and is coming on campus has to be ready to help. They have to have a player or two at least be ready to go in 2025.
So what you're saying is, job well done, Jeremy Pruitt, right?
Jeremy Pruitt had several issues in terms of running a program and being a head coach. But overall, talent evaluation was not on that list, and being able to acquire talent. How did they get those players? It's kind of been established at this point. It's actually kind of established how other programs get those players. Well, some are just more buttoned up than others, but Jeremy Pruitt left some gifts. Hooker was a gift. Byron Young was a gift. Darnell Wright was a gift. Cooper Mays, who is still the starting center, was a gift. And then Josh Heupel and his coaching staff deserve the credit for everything they've done with those players. But Josh Heupel's job is also to get more players. And they've done that at certain positions. And this offensive line group that just signed looks good on paper. Let's see how it performs over the next few years, because that's going to play a huge role in how much success Tennessee is able to have. Michigan winning the national title and the way they were able to run up front is a reminder of that as well.
Yeah, we talked a lot about the offensive line this week on the show. Wasn't planning to, but it just kind of comes up every single day in conversation. It is worth pointing out, I mean, Glenn Ellerby's developed a lot of these guys. Cade Mays is better because of Glenn Ellerby. Darnell Wright, Cooper Mays, Jerome Carvin, all these guys. So it is worth pointing out that as well. Hey, out the door real quick, Tennessee at Mississippi State tonight. Tennessee drilled Ole Miss in the SEC opener. Volunteers look pretty good. It was only one game of 18 in the SEC play, but you got to like that a lot when you're in 2 leading scorers. Dalton Connect and Josiah Jordan-James were held at 8 points.
Yeah, this team has a number of options offensively. So game in, game out, we'll talk about different players who step up offensively, and really on the defensive side as well. Tennessee is driven by Zakai Ziegler, and he's declared himself back. Mentally, he looks like he's back in terms of confidence and where his body is, where his knee is. The way he played the other day, the way he's shooting the basketball is a big deal. What Adu did the other day, if he's able to play at a high level throughout the season, that's a big deal for Tennessee. Going on the road's a different kind of challenge, and there will be some games where Tennessee doesn't shoot well and the offense isn't there. Maybe this is one of them. So getting through this week will be a challenge, but the Vols went into conference play as a favorite or one of the favorites, depending on who you ask. And that's still the case. Tennessee did kind of send a message of what it's capable of. It's a long journey. That's the required disclaimer that everybody's aware of at this point. But this team is deep. This team has bought in. They're playing as a team. And with Zakai Ziegler playing the way that he is, the Vols can go a long way this season in conference play and beyond.
He's Josh Ward at Josh_Ward on Twitter. You can listen to him and VFL Jason Swain, noon to 3 on 99.1 The Sports Animal and the Sports Monster up there in the Tri-Cities. And of course, you got the you can stream and listen via the app and all that and more. You got the Josh and Swain newsletter coming out every Friday morning at 8:45.
You cannot avoid us, and I apologize for that. But if you do take a moment, I would greatly appreciate it, whether you check out the description or simply type in joshandswain.com to subscribe. It's once a week in your email inbox. So, yeah, we're having fun on the radio, doing video and everything else, plus a little bit of writing with the Josh and Swain newsletter.
Josh Ward, give him a follow on Twitter. Josh, appreciate it, man.
Thanks, Eric.
All right, and that's going to do it here for this edition of Locked On Vols, this Wednesday show. Big game coming up later tonight for Tennessee basketball on the road. We'll take a look at how Tennessee fared in that one on Thursday's show. That and a whole lot more. The latest in the transfer portal, all that right here on Locked On Vols. Until then, enjoy the rest of your Wednesday, everybody.